Previously on Rob Zombie's Halloween.
Mike fancies himself the amateur vet, but has a carb addiction. Ronnie and Judith eat all the breakfast cereal, and now he's close to the edge as he's hitting school carbless. Holding out till lunch, two boys accost him in the bathroom and he gets dragged to the principal's office for fighting. The principal discovers one of Mike's dead cat cadavers sat on top of his lunchbox, but won't let him have his backpack back to get his sandwich. Starving! Michael runs to the local bakery but realises when he's there, his wallet's in his backpack, which the principal has, and he loses it. In a carb-deprived rage, he kills the bully who stopped him eating. Revenge. Desperate to get Halloween candy from trick-or-treating to satiate himself, all he's given is sugar-free pseudo-sweets. Hangry as hell, he decides Ronnie's going to pay for his cereal munching. Judith's boyfriend tries to make himself a flatbread sub and gets sunk. And Mike finally savages Judith because she aided and abetted Ronnie and is going out with this Sarnie-stealing lowlife. Mike wolfs down the bread and meat treat, the carb mist disperses, and he sits clueless in a carb confusion waiting for his mum. Mummy arrives after a hard night's stripping and is distraught to find there's no bread for a sandwich.
Or something like that. Details. And cut! Let's go again.
After 10 months in the state's penal system during his trial, Michael is transferred to Smith's Grove Sanitarium and fully enters the world of Dr. Samuel Loomis, and the doctor-patient relationship becomes the most significant one in his life. Loomis was in attendance in his trial but hadn't worked with him prior to that night. Loomis seems to have pushed himself into this position and seems too narcissistic and opportunistic to want to do the hard work associated with helping a child as damaged as Michael. But the narcissistic nature of Loomis will be Michael's most prevalent influence for the next 15 years. How can Michael trust Loomis? We know from his experience with the principal that when you speak how you feel to authority, it means that you are judged as the perpetrator. While all the external chaos of his home and school life has been removed within these walls, as a 10-year-old, his social isolation from the outside world and being locked in his cell between treatments without real stimulation pushes him to develop even more negative ways to cope. His negative feelings turn inward and continue to erode his already extremely low self-esteem. In interview, Michael denies killing on Halloween. He's erased it from his memory, which means he doesn't have to process it. And his mother is complicit in the denial. Having gone through a trial where the evidence has been presented and found guilty, he is aware that Ronnie, Judith, and her boyfriend are dead. Yet he asks his mother if everyone at home is okay. By everyone, he's maintaining the facade that he didn't kill, and his mum endorses this fiction. Rather than stating, there's only Boo, she allows him to avoid taking responsibility for what he's done and the grief he's caused, facilitating him simply erasing it. Loomis thinks that the expression Michael wears on his face is the facade. But Michael has learned to play the angel because Loomis has cast him as the devil. Rather than understanding that there are particular things that trigger his rage and unraveling and revealing Michael's causal chains, Loomis presents the facade of a man trying to really understand Michael scientifically through cause and effect, while covering the truth that Loomis is a man who really understands the world in religious terms. Good and evil, right and wrong, rather than A causes B. He's a priest masquerading as a psychologist. Michael's then advised by the first genuinely kind male influence we've seen near him that the key to not getting down is to live inside his head, beyond the walls. This encourages him to go back to the masks. He finally works out that he is still abandoned. He is still not getting the contact that he wants. he is still alone. As he descends further and further into himself, the mask hides what he now perceives as his ugliness. But because he can't accept what he's done and the pain he has caused his beloved mother, he can't process it. He recognizes there is an ugliness because something about him is eroding his mother, which in turn erodes him in a downward spiral. His solution, though, is to hide it, ultimately leading to him starting to detach from his mother. Bringing the picture of Michael and Boo is his mother's last attempt to draw him back into re-engaging. This doesn't work, but when the nurse comments that Boo couldn't possibly be related to Michael, this shatters the perfect family image that we realize Michael is clinging on to and triggers a murderous rage. Zombie's script is incredibly clever. It chooses the mundane, passive-aggressive phrases that people say and gives them the detonation power to immense levels of violence. The fear in this movie is the current normal but dysfunctional way that we as a society communicate with each other that can create such damaging monsters. Beware your words and actions, because you don't know how close to the edge someone is. Michael stands again victorious and dominant over the nurse. He's taught her a lesson. But as he's restrained by the guard and his mother removes the mask, she sees for the first time the primal, aggressive, deranged expression on his face and is horrified and scared by it. Her seeing this convinces him that he must now hide who he is behind a mask. In his mother looking over old films of what her son was and what she has created, and choosing her own death as the solution, she cements death as the only solution to every problem for Michael from then on. We then jump to 15 years later. Michael, in being told of the death of his mother years earlier, has completely shut down. He simply lives in his head, and the continual making and displaying of masks means that he can control the walls around him. The mask is the self-imposed wall of control around his identity. The display of masks on the wall of his cell may track the progression of his mind, almost like a calendar tracking time, or at least his own internal psychological journey. Touching or disturbing the mask would in effect disturb the way he's tracking time and his own devolution. It would be like disturbing the pages of his diary. When the mask can no longer contain the depth of his mental ugliness, he needs to make another mask. The number of masks represent how far he's descended into the darkness in his mind. It's unclear whether Michael perceives Loomis's last day as a final abandonment. But what appears clearer is that Loomis isn't particularly concerned with treating Michael. He's more concerned with studying what Michael has become. And that is a subject to talk about, not a person to help. Loomis has in effect used Michael to progress and profit from. Loomis's analysis may be accurate, but there's a lack of warmth and caring when Loomis talks at Michael. Loomis says, "You've become like a best friend." Just shows you how fucked up my life is. It's not a kind thing to say. It says, "I've spent so much time with you that de facto I've had no time for anyone or anything else, but you are not a worthwhile investment because I judge my life to have been ruined for it." If your only daily companion thought that the last 15 years they spent with you was a waste, how would that make you feel? That scarcity of contact, the absolute conviction that you're too damaged to be understood and therefore there's no point in communicating, that complete absence of love might warp your perspective so completely so as to see a threat in every situation and an enemy in every person. It might reduce your self-worth to such a level that the normal bustle and trash talk of the world with anyone would trigger an unassailable rage. Michael is the victim mentality taken to the farthest end of the spectrum. Emotional fragility taken to the extreme. Utterly unable to communicate with others and therefore closes all line of communication to others. He doesn't understand his emotions and won't communicate his feelings to try and understand them. In living only in his mind, he's not able to process his world in a healthy way. He's only able to repeat the same thoughts and spiral downwards in them. His downward trajectory cannot be adjusted by outside influences because he doesn't share his thoughts. This means that the way he sees his world evokes anger. He has no boundaries to his anger or what his anger will produce. And having grown into a near 7-foot man, he now has the physical presence to dominate, and the total absence of inhibition during his rages means that he has the strength to force total submission in any situation. On the 30th of October, Michael puts on his pumpkin orange Halloween mask the night before Halloween, showing us that he tracks the calendar year. He repeats that year of 15 years ago in an endless loop, locking it in stasis, preventing new or healthier perspectives from evolving his thoughts. When two guards rape a female patient in his room, in another perfect fusion of sex and violence, he doesn't immediately react. When they disturb and wear his masks, he doesn't react. But when the guards use the same sexually belittling phrase as his stepfather, faggot, that is the trigger to a new level of murderous rage. It's obvious that he killed the other guard. However, it's left for us to decide whether he killed the raped patient. He does kill the nurse, the security guard, and the old guard who considers Michael and himself to be friends. Now this can be seen as just the beginning of the horror now, the mindless killing. But consider this. Michael, 15 years earlier, said that he needed to get out. He was desperate to get out. This place has housed him against his will for 15 years for something he doesn't remember doing and hasn't processed. Perhaps he's blocked it out because it didn't work as this perfect solution. It only made matters worse. His mother killed herself because he was forced to kill a nurse because she dared to question the sanctity of the perfect family that Michael held dear. All of the employees of this institution are responsible for keeping him locked up. Imagine the resentment and hatred you might have for being wrongly imprisoned. This institution subjected you to staff who abused you, and then the old guard, a man who said he was your friend and had been imprisoned himself, wanted at the moment when you finally had your chance of freedom to re-imprison you. He proved that he wasn't your friend. He proved that he was just another authority figure selfishly interested in his job and following the rules. Imagine the feeling of betrayal. This is why Michael tortures Ishmael before killing him. It's a punishment for his deceit. As Ishmael protests that he was good to Michael, that would only compound his rage. Imagine someone who was complicit in your torture for 15 years thinking delusionally they were good to you. Is Michael thinking as he repeatedly drowns Ishmael, yeah, and this is me being good to you? All you had to do was let me go, and I would have let you go. You could have just told me to go be free and live outside the walls of my mind. But instead you revealed who you are, a charlatan liar like everybody else. Michael needs clothes. His life has told him that his solution can always resort to killing for them if needed. Big Joe Grizzly, the trucker, makes the truest statement in the film.
I see. What we got here is failure to communicate.
Michael knocks on the door politely. He needs his clothes. The trucker eventually comes out, threatening Michael, and then uses the trigger word, bitch, as his stepfather did, and threatens his identity protector, the mask. Michael is triggered into an eye-opening display of rage-induced strength, bending a metal cubicle wall with the ferocity of his impacts. We now know how strong Michael is. He now knows how strong he is. As an audience, we now understand the extent of the threat he poses to anyone he faces. If he can physically dominate a 6-foot-plus, confident, knife-wielding trucker, who amongst us is safe? It's coincidence that Michael is given the opportunity to escape on the 30th of October, but is it crazy that he would see that as a sign? He will go to Haddonfield because that's where his home is. He's not a random wandering killer. He wants to reconnect with his family in whatever way he can. This Halloween is about reconnection, recreation, restaging and reliving the Halloween of 15 years earlier. In breaking free of the walls of the Sanitarium, he is free to recreate it, piece it back together as best he can. He tries on this night to solve all his problems as he tried 15 years earlier. That's not crazy. How many of us try to recreate a perfect Christmas every year? Put the same decorations up, wear the same Christmas sweater, have the same meal. Ritual is a vital part of these occasions. He keeps proving to himself that killing solves problems. He has brought Judith's gravestone back, proving he now remembers what he's done and the effect of those actions. But he doesn't yet have a plan. He just knows that it's Halloween and he craves that feeling of peace that he felt on the night after he had solved all his problems and held Boo while sitting on the stoop at the front of the house. He exhumes the old tools for the job, the knife and mask. As Laurie Strode comes up to the door and drops off the mail, Michael smells the letter. While Michael has changed physically, Michael's identity and sense memory is stuck on that stoop that fateful night of Halloween. We see the younger Michael kiss and smell Boo. He can recognize Laurie as Boo from her scent on the envelope. Michael stands watching Laurie beside a tree. He can't go into the school. He wouldn't possibly feel comfortable approaching her. Perhaps if he stands there, she will recognize him and come down and greet him as a long-lost brother. He's also evaluating these new people that she has in her life. The people that replaced him. These people threaten the family unit that Michael craves and he tried to create on that Halloween 15 years earlier. As Boo walks home with Anna and Linda, her friends, Michael again watches from across the road. Laurie recognizes the stranger who she's seen, but when she tells her friends, Anna starts with the insults. Pervert. And Linda, unprovoked, antagonizes him to impress her friends. Hey freak, you want some more of the young stuff? Then Anna continues the abuse, calling Michael an arsehole and telling him to crawl back under a rock. Imagine how painful it must be to have, the previous night, manhandled and overpowered a man as confident and capable as Joe Grizzly, to then be openly insulted and belittled again in broad daylight by two 110-pound overconfident girls. One insults him sexually, the other is spoiling for a fight. The way they've insulted him determines the fate he plans for them. Although he's grown into a dominant force, his stature seemingly affords him no respect still. He is still considered, as Judith's boyfriend referred to him, a squirt. Michael follows Boo home and watches Boo interact with this woman who's replaced his mother as her mother. He sees Boo's happiness and joy around this woman. This woman is a pale imitation of his mother, who was a wonderful, loving, kind, affectionate woman. A woman who hugged and touched. This woman seems cold and critical. Michael goes back to his family home to think. the place where he is trying to re-experience his Halloween. This environment is his. It's his chosen sanctuary. But then imposters invade his castle. A man's home is his castle, and these invaders choose to have sex in his house. This is the greatest of slights and disrespect. But this works out perfectly, because as fate would have it, it's the girl who called him a freak and tried to proposition him. Again, the cosmos has aligned in his favor. If there was ever a sign that what he planned was preordained, it was that these two would have sex like Judith and her boyfriend did, so he can fully replay the events of that night.